What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Economic Prepper here. Hope that you guys are doing very well today. Got some updates that I want to share with you guys, and we've got some really concerning information that I want to share with you guys. And it looks like they're planning something really big, and we're going to dive into some things today. So I'd love to get your feedback on this one. I've got my own thoughts on this, but which I'm going to share with you guys. But I also want to get your feedback on it as well. And you know, prepping for SHTF, it just got a little bit more concerning. You know, with diesel and gas prices soaring, we've got dwindling oil supplies, record profits being earned by the oil and gas companies, the oil and gas industry. You know, seeming crisis after crisis. You know, the looming threat of food shortages and fertilizer shortages. I mean, heck, even water supplies are dwindling due to historic droughts that we're seeing here. Historic droughts are causing our food and waters system to be under threat. It's crazy. And you know, as the fourth richest man in the world, you gotta ask yourself, why is Bill Gates buying farmland? Now, I already have my own thoughts. I'm pretty sure you guys have your own thoughts. Why do you think that Bill Gates is buying so much farmland? I mean, this is the fourth richest guy in the world, and he buys millions of acres of farmland. In spite of the droughts that we're faced with, in spite of the droughts, but you know, you gotta wonder. Now, if you're following this channel, I know you guys are smart. You know, as a prepper, you gotta think to yourself, what could possibly be coming down the pipeline? I mean, with that being said, you know, it's pretty safe to say that some of the best preppers in the world, they're probably the wealthiest people in the world. I mean, think about it. You know, while we don't necessarily have access to the same resources or the quantities that the wealthy do, we can definitely learn from wealthy people, because at the end of the day, you know, prepping is nothing more than the acquisition and the acquiring of resources in preparation for what we think might be coming down the pipeline. So, you know, if you think a drought is coming, well, what are you going to do? You're going to stock up on water. You're going to fill your pantry up with water. You're going to, you know, probably purchase a crap ton of water filtration devices. You know, maybe the Brita water filters, or maybe the types of water filters that you can connect to your house, and those are probably the best water filters in my opinion. That way, you know, all of the water from the sinks to your refrigerator to your shower is also, you know, it's all going to be filtrated water or filtered water. You know, so that's an option. But at the end of the day, the wealthiest people in this world have proven time and time again, you know, through their acquisition of, you know, resources, that they're some of the best preppers in the world. And so, you know, I've always been taught to find the smartest people in the room and learn from them. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I'm certainly not the smartest person in the room, but if we can find the smartest people in the rooms, figure out what they're doing, and you know, pretty much follow their lead. Now, obviously, we're not going to have the same prepping related resources that they're going to have. They're probably going to have $1 million bunkers, you know, 40, 50, you know, 100 years worth of food. You know, if you're Bill Gates, you're probably, you know, with multiple millions of acreage that you could just live off of, and multiple generations that follow could easily live off of your compound. And, you know, so while we're not necessarily wealthy per se, hopefully we're acquiring resources by, you know, prepping and storing whatever foods that we can, you know, afford to house and purchase. Obviously, with inflation and so forth, it makes it more difficult, but we can do this. And so, you know, I don't, you know, I've run into a number of people in the past that have a tendency to, you know, see a wealthy person and, you know, speak badly about them. And me personally, I don't really care how they got their money, because it doesn't have anything to do with me. But what I can do is I can learn from them. Now, I can learn what not to do, which is, not trying to screw people over if they happen to gain their wealth through unscrupulous methods. But at the same time, there are some good qualities in everyone that we can learn from. And so, I think that, wealthy people offer a lot of insight in terms of preparation. Now, there's over 2 million individual farms in the United States, and that's essentially the equivalent of almost 900 acres of usable land that could be used for farming. Roughly, well, I'm trying to remember what the figure was that I had read, but basically, the typical family-owned farm, they make about $69,000 a year in profits, which honestly is really not that much money, especially when you look at how much work goes into farming. And it's scary when you think about it, because you got doctors and lawyers making, six figures, some doctors making $1 million a year or more. You got some lawyers making $1 million a year or more, but yet our farmers who provide us with food and allow our society as we know it to continue to sustain itself, they're only making $69,000 a year. It's kind of crazy. But as we look at climate change and international political tensions and so forth, we've got tariff wars going on. Our consumer diets are changing, and we're seeing this with inflation right now. Inflation is unbelievable. I don't have to explain that to you guys. Gas prices are, and thankfully we have gas, even at the high prices that we're seeing. Thankfully, we're not experiencing shortages on gas yet, but we have been warned that gas shortages are, I don't know if I want to say coming, but we did get a warning about the East Coast expected to be experiencing some gas shortages, possibly some diesel shortages. Now, what are the wealthy planning? What do they expect to happen here in the next year or so, in the next few months? That's the big question. And I have a feeling that they're planning something really big. I mean, if you look at where they're putting their money, what kind of investments are they making? They're buying farmland. They're buying farmland. Now, if we look at previous recessions, the wealthy has a tendency to buy up assets on the cheap. So while the average American is looking at, a housing market crash, for example, we're not in one right now. We're not in one yet, but many experts and economists are indicating that a housing crisis, a housing crash, or at least housing weakness could be showing up here shortly. Now, the average person is looking at this as a bad thing, but the wealthy people, they're looking at this as an opportunity. So, they're like, all right, this house used to sell for, say, $400,000 in a good market. During a housing market crash, let's say it's $300,000, maybe $250,000. So they'll scoop the house up for $250,000, wait for the housing market to rebound, sell it back to the market for $400,000. Or if you've been watching what the wealthy are doing, they're taking these houses and not even selling them back. They're keeping them, and then they're renting them out indefinitely so that you and me can never ever own that piece of property. And they're pretty much just adding to their monopoly chessboard of additional assets that continue to appreciate that you now can no longer purchase. If you look at BlackRock, they've purchased millions of dollars of housing, residential properties that will never ever go back on the market, or at least there's no intention of these properties going back on the market for sale. So what are they doing? They're renting these properties out to people at, regular people like me and you, and they're increasing their wealth. And they're also keeping a particular piece of property, another resource, scarce. Why is it scarce? Because it's no longer available for sale to the average person. It's being owned by this corporation for the foreseeable future. So we got to pay attention to what they're doing. And, with interest rates going higher and higher, and the average person needing to borrow, average person I don't think has, $500,000 to $1 million to buy a house nowadays. You would be subject to whatever the interest rates are for mortgages. Well, if you're some big, huge corporation, maybe you've got special access to lowered interest rates. You can finance properties way cheaper. maybe you've got some big old cash pile that you've just, that you've just got sitting in the bank earning like nothing, and then they'll just deploy that cash into a house or several houses, and ultimately rent them out and make a profit. Now, about 97% of American farms, they're owned by small and medium-sized owner-operators. Corporations, though, they own about 3% of the rent, and they own about 3%, and they ultimately rent the land to farmers. So it's kind of crazy that there's some farmers out there that literally they're working the land that they don't even own, and they're running their businesses off of this borrowed land. Kind of crazy. But in addition, over 250,000 farms are so-called factory farm owned, rented, or co-operated by corporations. So, and it stands to reason that these corporations are making a killing over the the regular mom and pop farms, just because they've got more resources available to them. Now, with this being said, maybe kind of just wondered, what kind of bunkers do these wealthy people have? What kind of massive food stores and pantries do these people have? Do these wealthy individuals have? Came across this article here. Just looking at it right here. I'm gonna share it with you guys. It says here, a lawyer. I wonder what kind of lawyer this guy is. I don't really know, but it says here, a lawyer bought a 60-acre compound near Yellowstone National Park for his family of 13. Now he's selling it for $23 million. And, just kind of going through here. So number one, this particular guy, whether he calls himself a prepper or not, he is certainly prepared. He's got 60 acres of real estate associated with this estate. It says here they bought it in 2017. 10 bedrooms in this particular house, or mansion, I guess. It's not even a house anymore. And this one's sitting in Montana. Now, Montana's got a lot of farmland out there. It says here that they're ready to move, and they want to sell their compound for $23.5 million. Now, I'm just thinking, with a $60 million piece of real estate, and it's just you and your family. Just think about it. Like, how many resources could you store on a property like that? You could just about never ever have to leave that property in your life. And you could probably raise multiple generations in there. They're secure here. It says that it's located inside of a gated community. So if you're in a gated community with properties in the $20-something million price point range, you've literally got a complete, more likely a complete society inside your neighborhood, and you're going to have people who are like-minded. So when SHTF happens, these people are taken care of. These people are going to be able to survive whatever happens. I'm willing to bet that if you've got $23 million for one of these mansions here, you've probably got, nuclear blast-proof underground bunker. I'm willing to bet. That. Yeah. So, and as a matter of fact, they actually showed the address of this house in the article here. I want to share this with you guys if I can find it. It's got 10 bedrooms, and it's got plenty of camping, and you gotta think, with 23 acres, there's a lot of wildlife, so they're able to sustain themselves. If they needed to, hunt their own, hunt and kill their own food, they can do that. I read somewhere in here that there's a lake that they can fish from. So they have just about the full Monty on in terms of sustainability and so forth. So I looked up this property and I found it on Zillow, and it says here it's a 60-acre compound with 10 bedrooms, an all-suite main home, 3 bedrooms, 2 full bath quarters. It's got a 3-car garage, and it says, get this, I'm going to highlight this for you guys. Check this out. It says a well-stocked trout pond, viewing the dramatic Spanish Peaks into the Yellowstone National Park. So they're getting fresh air, and they've got fish for forever. Basically, they've got sustainability, so they can do their canning, they can do their jarring. They're never going to have to worry about any type of natural resource impacting their sustainability of their family or future generations to follow. I mean, look at this place here. I can only imagine what their pantry looks like. And I'm also willing to bet that there's tons of like underground passageways and storage and in this property. I mean, look at this wine cellar. If your wine cellar is this big, can you imagine how big their pantry is? I mean, I don't know the dimensions of this wine cellar, but I'm willing to bet you could probably fit a good 6 people just in this section, just in that section alone. I mean, look at this kitchen here. You know, they've got a huge refrigerator. They can, you know, they could take full advantage of any kind of sales and discounts in the grocery stores, COSTCO, you name it, right? And you know, with the massive food shortages that we've been experiencing regionally, I'm not seeing food shortages everywhere, but we've heard from President Biden about food shortages, that we are to expect food shortages. Maybe let's just, and you know, with all the different food processing plants that have been burned down, meat processing plants shut down, many different Walmart and Costco distribution centers either affected by fires or some form of a shutdown. It's like, guys, our food supply system is under threat. And these owners of big corporations, these owners, these wealthy individuals, they understand what's happening. And I think that they're planning for something big. I mean, look at this here. We can see an aerial map of this particular lot. Look at this thing. This is tremendous. You can see that they have access to the trout pond, as mentioned in the real estate ad listing here. These people are ready. These people are ready to survive whatever happens. So how do we use this to our advantage? Well, number one, we realize that some of these wealthy people, they're buying enough land to sustain themselves, like usable land that they can live off of, right? So, all right, maybe we can't buy 60 acres of land. Maybe you can buy 1 acre. Maybe you can buy 10 acres. I don't know what you can buy, but depending upon where in the country you live, you know, real estate prices are going to vary. So, and the other thing is that, you know, billion-dollar corporations, they will purchase other corporations together. They'll team up and allocate resources collectively to be able to buy things that they can't necessarily afford comfortably independently. So, you know, with you know, let's just say you find a 10-acre farm or a 10-acre plot of land with enough residential space to live on. Maybe you get together with your favorite cousins or friends and you purchase something together. And while independently you couldn't afford it, but together maybe you can. I'm not saying this is not financial advice. I'm just looking at what these wealthy individuals and corporations do. They pool their resources together and then they purchase these things, and then it becomes a future investment, because guess what? They're not making any more land. And as a matter of fact, here we can see that the lawyer, this guy, look, check this out. This guy purchased this house back in 2017, and it looks like he purchased this house for somewhere in the ballpark of $7,500,000. Now that sounds rather expensive, but if you compare it to the price of the property right now, at least his asking price, it looks like he's looking to sell this property for $23.5 million. So this is another example of the wealthy purchasing discounted assets and then listing them for sale at a higher price. So just another lesson that we can pick up. Now, obviously, I'm not saying like we can run out there and buy a $7.5 million property on discount and flip it for $23 million, but you know, we want to prepare for any type of housing market crash. And attempt to maybe pick up a house, pick up a piece of real estate at a discounted price that could potentially be worth more in the future. This is what I'm picking up from their habits, from the habits of the wealthy. You buy land that you can live off of. So maybe you buy land with a lake on it, and so now you've got fish. Maybe you buy in a place where there's, you know, wildlife that you could hunt. Obviously, you know, with a lot of acreage, if the soil is rich, I'm not a farmer. I'm just looking at what these guys are doing and just, you know, thinking, okay, how do I scale that down so that we could do the same thing? You buy a place, maybe have the soil tested before you purchase it. Make sure that the soil is good and ripe so that you could actually invest and harvest food so that you could sustain for long periods of time. You know, maybe, you know, and so these are just some thoughts that I've had, you know, and then I also think about the types of investments they make. They'll invest in stocks of great companies at great discounted prices, right? So when the stock market crashes, they're looking to buy these stocks. They're not looking to sell. They're looking to buy everything when it's cheap, just like we do, but they do it on a bigger scale. So when we're in Walmart, when we're in Costco, when we're in BJ's or Sam's Club or whatever, when we see stuff on sale, we buy up more because it's a great deal. When they see companies that are great companies during a stock market crash, they're buying more because they realize it's a great deal. And so it's just like taking their thought processes and applying it in a smaller scale that we could, you know, benefit from ourselves. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to share some of these insights with you guys. You guys let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know what kind of prepping you guys are doing, what kind of planning and preparation, and drop me some tips. I'm always open for tips. And comment down below if you want me to leave my email address so that you guys can reach out to me. I would love to hear from you guys, but I'll only leave my email address if you guys want to reach out to me. Otherwise, I'm not going to put it. Yeah, but I'm also going to leave you guys some helpful links in the description down below, so be sure to check those out. Some survival guides that I found, I think that might be helpful for you guys, and some other helpful items. Anyway, if you made it this far on this video, drop me a like. Really appreciate that. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care, preppers.